welcome to Let's Talk Personal. I am your host, Frances Reimers. It is Wednesday at 5 o'clock, which means it is our weekly date with one another. I missed you guys so much last week. There wasn't even snow, really. It was kind of pathetic, but we had to shut down. DC gets very crazy when snow comes, so we had to shut down last week. And so I'm glad that you are back with me this week, and completely different change of temperature. It's actually a little warm out there, and so I'm just saying F it and getting right into summer wardrobe. I just skip spring. Spring is the foreplay of the seasonal calendar. I just skip it, just get right to summer. But I'm so happy to see all of you. I'm feeling good. Life is good, and so I hope it's the same for you. If you'd like to join tonight's discussion, and I think it's going to be a lively one, just saying, if you'd like to join tonight's discussion, you can do so like you do every week on Twitter at LTP Brand Radio or on Instagram at Let's Talk Personal. If you'd like to talk personally to me, and Lord help you, love you that you do, you can reach me on Twitter at Your Firestarter or on Instagram at Firestarter CEO. So much has gone on in the past couple of weeks since I missed you. If you missed the rather large announcement, I have been selected to speak at the NFL alumni meeting at their annual conference meeting next month in Vegas. So yay Firestarter and yay me for this super awesome opportunity. And I'm sorry, I'm beyond the humble bragging about it. This is kind of a big deal. So watch my social media channels for pictures from that, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fun things to check out. So let's get down to it. Let's get down to tonight's conversation. I'm super excited about tonight's guest. We're taking a departure for a hot minute away from the normal sports and sports culture and bringing in something that I think is also a lot of fun, which is Americana and sex and writing and that sort of anarchy. And so I'm super excited. Joining me tonight is Camille Todaro, and she is a contributing writer from Penthouse Magazine. And looking fresh as a daisy you are. Looking lovely. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I knew you were going to be wearing your glasses, and so I decided to go sans glasses tonight because I didn't want us to be totally twinsy. That gets a little Bopsy twinish. I was like, I know she's going to be wearing glasses, so I'm going to be sans glasses tonight. We can't have both of us in glasses. But dear, I love you. I love your writing. I love what you're doing out there. But you do a little bit more than Penthouse. We'll certainly get to that here in a second. You have a book that I loved flipping through. Thank you for sending me the information on it. And I love it because I think a lot of people, especially young professionals, should read this book. It's called Pardon Me for Being Proud. Talk a little bit about why you wrote that book and what has been the reaction to that book.
Yeah. So I wrote that book because when I published my first book, which was more of a novel, I had quite a few friends that were good friends of mine that I had known for, at least 8 to 10 years that were not very happy with me. And it was very weird to see that. And I'm not saying that when people are your friends that they have to tell you what you want to hear all the time. I like my friends to be honest and blunt with me. But, I had quite a few people that would say that I would brag about sharing, posts from my novel
right.
or pictures of the cover or chapter teasers. And that's all normal stuff that any author does. They're going to promote their book.
Right.
And so basically what happened was I lost quite a few friends, but it forced me to look at my circle and look at who I was hanging with. Mm-hmm. And what I realized was that I was the most ambitious person out of the entire circle. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that people have to go write a novel, because it is daunting and it is freaking time consuming. Yes. And it is sometimes you sit there and you're doing this novel and you're just kind of like, is anyone going to give two shits about what I have to write about? But you keep writing and writing and you publish it. So I wrote that book because I wanted people to not feel like they have to be quiet about things that they are crashing, whether it's, goal, like buying a house, publishing a book, any milestone that you work your butt off for, I think that you should be proud. And I don't understand why people sometimes say that you're bragging. Bragging to me is saying, something like, oh, well, I was in Paris last week and you were stuck in Ohio and your life just sucks.
Not that there's anything wrong with Ohio for our Ohio viewers. Ohio's lovely. Yes.
Well, I'm actually born and raised in Cleveland, so I know how the cold is up there, and I chose to get out, and now I'm here in Dallas. But yeah, so I wrote that book because I wanted people to just feel like, look, like, don't feel like you have to be quiet about things that you are reaching from your own hard work and from your own ambition, because when you work your butt off and you earn, then you should be proud. Yeah.
Right. And what I loved about this book when I was looking through your profile, even before I reached out to you, what I loved about this book is I think this book is even more relevant right now than it was when you actually released the book, because even though the book is not that old, I think because we're living in a culture where how people find out about things going on in your life is through social media, and you have no choice unless you select groups of people that you share information to, you have no choice but to broadcast. And everybody gets very uppity about it. I definitely I definitely understood where you were coming from in this book, starting my own company and the trajectory over the past year that this company has been on. I've lost friends too. And some of them it was good loss. They were people that probably needed to, show themselves the door in my life. But there's been a few people that I genuinely am sad that they're no longer around, but my success was making them uncomfortable or unhappy or whatever the case may be. And I can't have that. Like we're on forward motion, and it's you have to be on Team Francis if you want to stick around. And this book, I think this book is really important for all entrepreneurs, but I think especially female entrepreneurs to read, because it really kind of sets the stage that, okay, this is going to happen when you get successful, and if you have a successful trajectory in your life, these things might happen, and it's okay. And here's how to move forward from that time. And so were these actual, steps that you took personally, or was this information you gathered from other people? How did you get all of the information shared in the book?
So each chapter is based on things that I dealt with personally, which I think when you write, I think that the best writing comes from personal experience. Yes. Right. Because you've experienced it and you know how it feels. So yes, each chapter is something that I went through. Yeah.
And I think, the biggest thing that a lot of people don't realize when they get ready to take off on a large venture is how isolating it is. The more hyper-focused you become on a goal that you're chasing, the more isolating your life becomes, because not everybody is on board with that direction, right? And there's only a handful of people who either A, get it, or B, give a shit. And so your pool gets smaller and smaller the closer you get to your goal. I mean, believe me, when I announced the other day that I'm working with the NFL Alumni Association, there were a lot of people that normally like my Instagram posts like crazy. It was like crickets. It was like, hello, who's out there? And they were MI because they're
and I sometimes feel like people like average because average is comfortable.
Right.
So once you have one person that's starting to crash through ceilings like this, there's going to be people that are like, yeah, go you, like that's awesome, like I know that that's your dream, and then there's going to be people that don't have that same drive or ambition that are going to tell you, hey, be quiet about it, you're bragging, blah blah blah, and it's like, no, I'm not, but you're mad because you don't have that same work ethic.
Right.
That's exactly what it is, you know?
Right.
So that's why I wrote the book.
Well, and I think, I loved it. I loved the concept. I loved everything about it. And I loved that it came from a young female and not a woman who waited until, she's 45 and above, reflecting on her life. Like, I mean, you've got a long runway out in front of you. And so for you to write this now and be like, fuck you. Like, I did this, this is my accomplishment. If you don't like it, go pound sand. Like, this is
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Like, because I think we need more of that, because I think when people don't celebrate our wins, we kind of retreat and are like, oh. And this book is kind of like, no, I'm not going to do that. I worked hard for this. I got this. This is me. And this is how I'm going to roll. I think people would be a little more adjusted in their lives if they thought like that. I mean, that's just me, but everybody's got their own pathway. But I really love this book, that it's coming from the perspective of a young female who's being very unapologetic about, no, I worked hard for this and this is mine and I'm rolling, like, deuces. And if you want to come with me, come with me. Don't. I don't care either way. I think
very much my message.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of women in general, guys too, just need to stop. If your crew isn't with you on this journey, then they're not really your crew. And just go find a new crew. I know that sounds, it's easier said than done, but honestly, I would much rather spend time with myself than be around people who don't share my enthusiasm for what I'm doing. Like
yes,
deuces. So since your book, you have gone on to other fun, exciting things. You are currently a contributing writer for Penthouse. So explain to oh, I like that. That's a good one.
This is our art issue. This is April. So
is that like edible body paint?
Yes, this is Shyla Jennings. She's our pet of the month.
Good for you, Shyla.
I can't show you all the pictures and stuff.
I mean, good for you, honey. So what, I mean, of all the magazines, I mean, there's literally hundreds of thousands of magazines out there that you could write for. Why Penthouse? Why did you decide to go that route?
Well, I got hired at Penthouse because of my first novel. So my first book is a very different, content from Pardon Me for Being Proud. So my first book is more sexual in nature, dark, dystopian, stuff like that. So I published that first book in August of 2016, and the editor-in-chief at the time, who, well, he's not there any longer, but I'm still great friends with him, but Safi is his name. He read some of my book, and he emailed me and said, I'm really impressed with your stuff. Do you want to maybe write for Penthouse? And I'm like, what? It was the most random thing, but it was also life-changing for me because, my bachelor's is in English. So to have a byline in a major publication is a big deal.
Yes.
Whether it's Penthouse or Cosmo, Glamour.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's hard because, people think that they're good writers, but there's plenty of people that think that don't know a semicolon from a colon.
That's
too,
correct. That's correct.
So you really got to know your shit if you're writing for a major publication,
Right. There's not a different department. Well, I mean, there are editors, but if you're writing for a major publication, your stuff has to come ready for print. There's no thinking about it or editing it. I mean, someone might edit it, but it better not be. It's for editing for content, not editing for substance and grammar. Like, you have to come print ready for these things. Absolutely. Yeah. And so for those at home that are not Penthouse readers, are willing to admit that they're Penthouse readers, what kind of articles have you written? What have been the topics that you've covered?
So I contribute to all the content. So basically anything that my boss says that I have to write, then I just do that.
Right.
You know, and that could be anything on politics to sexual exploits to sex toy ratings, to just, you know, proofing content. I mean, you know, but people, now my dad is this type of person. My dad has never once read any of my Penthouse stuff, and I don't blame him. He's Catholic, Sicilian, old school dad. Okay?
Right, right.
My mom has, but, you know, people, I think that I'm actually shocked that more people don't read Penthouse because, you know, Penthouse can help couples with their sex lives. Ugh. Because this is a men's magazine. So if you're trying to understand what a man needs or wants, then you should be reading Penthouse, and you should be reading any nude publication, whether it's Playboy or Penthouse. You know what I mean? Right.
I think you're onto something there, but I also think I think, you know, a lot of women just aren't going to go there. They're not going to go there because they're just not. They're just gonna run away. So when you were I'm stuck back on the sex toy issue. So when you had to do product reviews of sex toys, did you have like an R&D department like give you a breakdown of all the various sex toys available and you were able to write about them, or did you personally have to use them? Like how did these kinds of articles get written?
Yeah, Ben Wallballs are my favorite. I'll just I think Ben Wallballs are awesome. You know, and I'm kind of a late bloomer too because I'm well, in June I'll be 34. So
old.
All through high school, like I never tried any sex toys or did anything like that. Like I'm a late bloomer for sure. And then I get hired at Penthouse, so I'm sure that my dad is just having a complete cardiac episode by this point. You know,
it's interesting. I think, I mean, and you probably, you know, have pieced this together. You know, we live in this very puritanical society where, you know, where people don't want to talk about sex. They can't talk about sex. It becomes this, you know, I hate to bring, you know, George Michael into this conversation, but when he put out the song, I Want Your Sex, like the lyrics of that song is kind of telling people to get over themselves. Like everybody does this. Like you and I would not be alive, exist in this world if somebody didn't have sex. So why are people so unwilling to broach this subject, talk about this subject? I know that you probably get direct blowback from people that you know because you write for this publication. Like what are some of the comments that come your way because of your affiliation with this publication and its subject matter?
Well, for one, I've had more male fans.
Yes.
Females sometimes when I tell them that I write for Penthouse, they're either like shocked or they're just like, oh. And it's just like, don't hate on the magazine. Maybe you should read it with your husband. Maybe it'll help your sex life.
Maybe it would help you not be so uncool.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I'm sure they, you know, I think it's probably a misnomer that they think that you're probably extra knowledgeable in this realm because you write for Penthouse. But that's probably not true. There's tons of writers for Penthouse that probably are not like adult film stars or have extra special training in that department. I mean, you're writers first. You just happen to write on this particular topic.
Exactly.
And does it ever make you uncomfortable when you talk to people, when especially like women get weird about who you work for?
I don't really edit myself. If someone has an issue with who I write for, then they don't have to read it. Like, it's pretty simple. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same thing as if you don't like the TV station, then change it, you know?
Right.
It's, you know, but I do think that more females should read publications like Penthouse, because I think that it can teach you a lot about men. Because,
right.
you know, oftentimes it's, you know, females think about men how they want them to act.
Right.
But you need to think about a man how a man thinks.
Right.
If that makes any sense. So,
yes.
you know, I think sometimes that we have certain molds that we want people to fulfill, and sometimes that's not how the person is.
Right.
Yeah. So
it's funny. I've had this conversation with people all the time. So I always like to say, and this is not degrading towards my male fans or all the males that I'm related to. I think this just is what it is. I think a man's thought process is like this long, and a woman's thought process on the same topic is this long. And women will often think that the guy is with them all the way over to here, to our thought process, but they dropped off like around here. And women get very frustrated and angry if the guy has not met us all the way over here, but they've stopped thinking about it. They've stopped processing it. And we have to realize that their brain just works in different ways than ours does. I'm a firm believer that men want to be fed, fucked, and left the hell alone. And if you fulfill those three buckets, then, I mean, you can quote me on that. I'm single, so take it for what it's worth.
yeah.
I think if you do those three things, guys will be pretty happy. They're pretty stoked about those three buckets. Maybe you should write an article on this. Like, is the larger male populace fed, fucked, and left the hell alone? Is that truly what men are looking for? Are they wanting more? I doubt it. But what is your thought? I saw this on the news today, and I thought of you as I was watching it. So Walmart today has announced that it is pulling Cosmo off of the turnstiles that are right there at the checkout, because they're thinking that Cosmo is overly sexualized and is impacting women in the name of the Me Too movement. And so they're actually taking those magazines and putting them in the back of the store in the magazine section with all of the other magazines. Do you really think that this is a move by Walmart to help with the Me Too movement? Or is this more of Walmart censoring what can and can't be shown in their stores?
I did not hear about that, but that is shocking, actually. Well, I think a move like that is a cultural thing. So some people say that I'm well-traveled, but I've been to Norway, Sweden, London, Germany. So right. Each time that I come back to the States, and I like our country, but we are prude when it comes to yeah. anything sex,
right?
Nudity. We are some prudes, yes. So, now there's a time and a place too. I mean, right. Obviously Cosmo, Penthouse, Playboy. No, you probably can't have those near a daycare, for example. But, and one thing that I like about Penthouse is that, it celebrates being sexual and being right. carnal, and
right.
that's a part of being human.
Right.
It's not anything to be, ashamed of, but cultural things, or maybe what you practice, if you're a Christian or a Baptist or even a Catholic. I mean, I think that it all comes down to how you're raised right. and what you're taught to believe is wrong and right. normal and just.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that Walmart is making this move, and I think it's interesting that they are putting it under the guise of they're doing this out of the Me Too movement. I mean, I've never viewed, and I think I'm on the side of the argument that I don't view things like Penthouse or Playboy or Cosmo. I don't feel it's exploiting women because these women are choosing to be part of this publication. No one is holding a gun to their head. No one is saying, you know, we're going to put your family in the white slave trade if you don't participate. These are active women voicing their decision to be part of of this publication and thus putting themselves out there. If anything, I think it's empowering rather than a degradation to our gender.
Yes.
And so thoughts on that?
Okay, well, yeah, so like when Hugh Hefner died, we had all these people that were saying, oh my God, Hugh Hefner exploited women. And it's just like, no, he actually did not. Because, you know, and people can say that same thing with Penthouse.
Right.
I mean, you know, we stand for, you know, the female form and all of its celebrations.
Right.
Now, something that takes, you know, females down would be, rape, you know, kidnapping,
right.
you know, anything like that. But I think that it comes down to how you view everything.
Right.
To me, as a female, when you have power over your sexuality and your body, I think that that's empowering as fuck. Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You know, but I also think that it comes down to how you're raised and what you're taught to believe is normal and just and something to be ashamed of and something not to be ashamed of.
Right.
You know, people talk about all the time, you know, well, you know, porn is really bad. Well, is it? I mean, there's a reason why it's a multi-billion-dollar industry because people are horny. Yeah. You know?
I don't know. Did you catch? There was a great article. I think it was Mashable or BuzzFeed or one of those. They came out with this great article during the Olympics about from Pornhub. So Pornhub was keeping stats on all of the different categories of porn that was being looked up by people who were in the IP area of the Olympic Village and the types of porn that people in this radius were looking for and the frequency and everything surrounded of what was happening on Pornhub in that time frame. And during the Olympics, this past Winter Olympics, I think the traffic from that part of South Korea like tripled during the Olympics, and they just did this whole analysis of what people were looking at. And I mean, it was typical stuff that you would expect during the Olympics. It's like athletic female or interracial threesome. I mean, it was fantastic. Like, I encourage everybody to look this up. This was a great it was a great way of marrying real time, analytic data with human sexuality, our sexual behavior. It was a fascinating piece. I would love if they would have done that on Pornhub, like around election night, or, around midterm elections, or, any of this stuff having to do, or like, Stormy Daniels' interview on 60 Minutes the other night. It would be great if Pornhub did an analytical breakdown of, that night, like who had the biggest hits and what they were looking up, because people are doing this. Like, you're absolutely right. This is a billion-trillion-dollar industry. Yeah. This is happening. These people are getting paid, some of them extremely well. It's not going anywhere. So what, when you guys are talking content at Penthouse, when you guys are looking at your editorial content and thinking about what it is that you're going to be writing about, what are those conversations like? First of all, most people watching or listening to the show, they're probably not part of magazine editorial content conversations. So give a little insight, if you can, about that and what seems to be the hot button issues that Penthouse is trying to address right now.
Sure. Penthouse has always married two subjects. That's top-notch writing and nude pictorials of beautiful women.
Right.
And those two things have proven to sell. It was started by Bob Guccione, who actually died in Plano, Texas, which is where I live right now.
Right.
But you know, we always try to find content that pushes outside of the norm. So
right.
not, white picket fence, PTA meetings, and cookie trays. No, like, we're not going to talk about that.
Right.
We're going to talk about, like, the pastor that has service every Sunday, but, like, has a girl downstairs that he bangs on the side while he's married. Like, shit like that,
It's always classy here on Let's Talk Personal. Always nothing but class here on the show. My Lord. Yes, continue, please. Continue.
I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Sorry. No, but so we work on a 3-month lead time. Right. So January, we're pulling content for April issue. The art issue, which just came out, that's all about Bob Guccione and his climb and how he got started. And, and he started this, back in the 60s. And, back in the 60s, it was hard to even get this out on the newsstands.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I think censorship was much higher then than it is now.
Right.
Sure. But some of our past issues, let me see here. November was the girls issue. That was all girls. December was our money issue. So we had content on Bitcoin and investing and stuff like that.
Right.
January, February, what was that issue? I'm sorry.
You're okay.
After a while, they all start to blur. I'm sorry about that. But Penthouse has always been known for doing two things, though, which is just putting top-notch writing with nude pictorials, and that sells.
Yes.
There's been plenty of people that have come up to me and they're like, oh yeah, Penthouse helped me through my teen years, But I also liked reading all the articles too, because the articles were actually good quality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And something else that people don't probably know about Penthouse is that it's led almost entirely by females. So Kelly Holland is our CEO and publisher. Mish Barber-Way is our editor-in-chief. She also fronts the punk band White Lung. Like, she's just a complete badass female. Like, I love her. She's like my hero.
Right.
Yeah. But for people to think that everyone that writes for Penthouse is maybe just some porn fiend is really naive, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. Well,
I think in this day and age where there's so many options and so much out there for people to choose from, I don't think a publication could survive if it was one dimensional. So I think it's good that that it is diverse and that the writing is solid. How does the publication differentiate itself though from something like Hustler?
Hustler is known for being a little more raunchy.
Right.
We might have full frontal pictorials, but they're always classy.
Right.
You won't see anything that's harming females in Penthouse or anything like that. There's full frontals, but nothing like super, super raunchy.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, and I think nude can be beautiful.
Yeah.
The body itself is a work of art. You know what I mean? And I think that that's what Bob Guccione was trying to, accomplish was, marrying top-notch writing with beautiful women. You know what I mean?
And to be honest, like, it's been a long time since I've actually picked up a magazine of that. Like, over the weekend, I took myself down to like the corner store and was asking for all of these publications, because it's been a minute since I've actually looked at like a Penthouse, or I mean Playboy, but isn't there anymore, but Penthouse or any of these magazines. And because I was like, I haven't, you know, with the advent of the internet and everything else, you know, the thought of going somewhere and getting these, not that I ever did that before, but the thought of going and getting these magazines, I was like, I haven't looked at one of these in years. And so in a digital age, I mean, obviously for a publication to survive in this day and age, you have to put a lot of time and energy into your digital content. How is Penthouse thinking about digital content and how it's delivering interesting, innovative topics in a world where people are wanting fresh content constantly?
That's probably more of a question for Mish, but since he's not here, I'll try to answer that as best I can. Anything that we have online is the same as what we have on in the
magazine. Yep. So, yep.
Some people like something that's tangible, something that they can feel and hold and open, and then other people like something that's more iPad, you know. So, and actually, when I got hired, there was some fake news, which, like, I'm not trying to go Trump here, but there was like some fake news going around that Penthouse had ceased to print. And when I got hired, I talked to my guy that hired me, and I said, well, you know, I saw something online that said that, you know, you were not printing anymore. And he's like, no, you know, that's fake news, you know. So, you know, and it's always fun to go into Barnes and Noble and just pick up a Penthouse and look at people's faces when I grab a Penthouse, because they see like this lanky girl with glasses, and they're just like, why is this girl grabbing a Penthouse? What is wrong with this girl? You know? And like, they send me my copy, so it's not even like I have to buy it.
Right.
It's still just fun just to go in and grab a Penthouse, you know, especially because I'm in Dallas, and Dallas is a little more conservative, you know.
Yes.
So people
just I would stand there and read it and like out loud be like, gosh, I haven't seen one of these since I got out of rehab. This is great. This is so great. They're really upping the standards here. God. I'm sure people, especially in Dallas, like I've spent a lot of time in Dallas, and especially depending the neighborhood that you're in Dallas, there's, I'm sure, some people that they're just like freaking out. Like they're gonna go to church and pray for you, and you're
no, I mean, like just last week I had some random guy on like Instagram that said that he was going to pray for me for something that I had posted, and I thought, I have made it in journalism now. You know?
I love it. I have prayed. I've made it because someone is saying they will pray for me. I love it. I love it. So speaking of social media, I mean, I did find it interesting that when I saw your profile and then started digging a little deeper, that some of your accounts were on lockdown. Was that because you're a writer? Was it because you had gotten nasty messages, or were you just trying to keep separate, you know, between your personal and the public? Like, what was the justification for having, like, especially like your Twitter was on, you had to send an invite to be invited in. And so I thought that was interesting as somebody who is in the public eye as a writer. I was like, is she doing this because she had a bad incident, or is she doing this so that she can write what she wants to write and say what she wants to say to a very specific audience of people?
Okay, so I'm kind of a paradox. Like, I'm very outspoken, which is probably why I'm at Penthouse now.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also kind of shy sometimes too, and I like my space. So in that way, I am a paradox. But I've been at Penthouse for over 1 year now, and I think just being in the company of other writers and journalists, it's taught me that it's really freeing to just be able to write, just write about anything. Now, people on Facebook, especially people that I went to high school with that haven't seen me in like, I don't know, like 10 years.
Right.
Sometimes I'll write stuff and people come back and they're like, I don't know what that means, but I'm just really pissed off about it. I'm like, okay. I'm like, there's something called implicit versus explicit, and
right.
you might want to look that one up, okay?
Yep.
Like, not everything is about you, I promise. You know, but now that I've been at Penthouse, I've learned that my fellow writers have gone through the exact same thing
right.
on a larger scale. So when you write a piece or when you do a cover that might raise some eyebrows, yes, like you are always going to get some flack.
Right.
You know, there is a cartoonist, Jeff Koturba. He doesn't contribute art to our publication, but he bought Part of Me for Being Proud.
Okay.
And he told me that he bought it because all of his cartoons, sometimes he gets some really great hate mail.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, hate mail means that people are paying attention.
Yes.
Whether they hate what you're doing or whether they like what you're doing, they're still checking you out. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, and it's the same with your talk show, you know. I mean, I'm sure that you have pros and cons.
I get hate mail every week. I get crazy ass shit every week. There was one guy, this was way kind of back in the beginning of the show, that sent me an email that said I needed to sit lower because my fat rolls were distracting to him.
Oh God, are you kidding me?
Yeah, no. I mean, I get crazy. Like, we had an episode that my friend Travis was on, and we talked about dick pics for like 40 minutes, and I got hate mail from a woman who was like, I'm a mother of 3 and your show is, you know, just so vulgar. And I'm like, my show is not aimed towards you. Like, what?
Right.
What? Like,
exactly.
What? And so she had a problem with the dick pic episode. I mean, this is information people need to know. This is the world that we're living in these days. And I thought, while the topic was hilarious, these are real things that people are really going through. Like, I'm not the only woman in the world who has had a guy send a dick pic through LinkedIn. Like, I know this for a fact.
Yeah.
and so, but she had an issue with that. People always write in if they don't like my hair, if they don't like the outfit I have on. Like, I read every single one. Some of them I respond to, some I don't. But my thought process is, if you are taking the time in your life to sit down and write an email to tell me that you hated my dress or you thought my makeup made me look like a tranny, then I thank you for, one, driving up my numbers because you are watching. But 2, they're probably going and talking about this to other people. Like, people that have that much hate in their heart, they don't keep it to themselves. They share it with other people. So I'm always like, yes, hate what I'm doing, because you're probably, you know, going to your book club or your fucking Orange Theory yoga class or whatever it is you do, and you're probably talking about it there too. So thank you for spreading the gospel of let's talk personal. But yeah, people get crazy, and I'm not even all that controversial. I can't even imagine what you guys at Penthouse get, because we talk about dick pics on occasion. That's not even all that racy. I mean, you guys are putting edible body paint on a chick on a cover. I mean, that's a whole yeah, exactly. That's a whole different echelon. That's a good for her. Are those boobs real, you think?
I think so. Her shoot was actually really good. Let me see here. Hold on. We'll just show everybody just like a 2-second clip. Make sure that your kids are out of the room.
Earmuffs.
Yeah.
Earmuffs.
Let me see here. Where's the shoot at? Shyla.
I'm very interested in this. Good for her. That's not that racy.
No.
People put stuff on Instagram that's racier than that.
I know, right? This is my favorite one.
It's not bad.
Where is it? There's some full frontal ones in here, but
I mean, she could put that on the coffee table.
This is my favorite shot of her.
That's not bad at all. There's chicks on Instagram that put pictures dirtier than that.
I know, right?
That's fine. Good for her. Good for her. God. I don't even put myself in a swimsuit. God bless her.
So, to your point about hate mail.
Yes.
I had a girl that I went to the gym with who I'm not friends anymore with over my first book. Mm-hmm. This is how I know that I had like been on my way, you know, because I got under someone's skin that bad over a book.
Yeah.
She bought my first book, which this is my first book, by the way.
Nice.
She had just gotten married and she read some of the content, and this was like January of like 2017, but he texted me one day and was just like, you know, I'm just shocked that you would write about strip clubs and cheating husbands. Like, what kind of stuff are you writing about? And I'm like, look, it's a book. I'm like,
right.
Like, if you're that freaking pissed off about a book, go burn it. I don't care, because I already made a profit off of you. Like,
well, and it's not autobiographical, is it?
No. You know, it's fiction. But even if it was, I mean, still, it's just, you know, it's people, you know, people will never like everything that you're doing, and the only way that you're going to be liked by everybody is by not being yourself.
Right.
So that's not the type of person that I am, and I don't think that that's the type of person that you are either.
No.
You know, but the most, you know, curious people are people that are just people that don't care about what people think, people that just do their thing. Yes. You know, and I'm not saying that I'm that type of person that I vow for acceptance from everybody. Right. But I'm not going to placate myself to make sure that I fit in with everybody's, you know, cookie cutter image of who I should be or what publication I should write for. Right. My dad has never once read one article for Penthouse. That's fine. My dad still loves me. He just doesn't really talk about Penthouse, you know? So, you know,
so you're not going to get him a framed compilation of all of your articles for Father's Day? It's not going to be a nice matted framed, you know, like montage of all of your pieces?
Well, he's actually coming down in early April to see me, and I have all of the penthouses on the coffee table, so they're just kind of right there in his face, you know?
And so, I mean, I assume that you're, you know, singling and mingling when gentlemen suitors or suitors in general come back to the domicile and they see your buffet of penthouses. What is the reaction to that?
Okay, well, the last guy that I dated, actually, he was turned on by it.
I mean, I would assume that, yes.
He liked that I wrote for Penthouse. He thought that it was awesome because we could just read the pieces and help us get in the mood. And he said that his last girlfriend, that she would just, you know, beat his ass to, you know, have Penthouse. And I'm like, but why? Like, but I think maybe if you're with a female that has body issues or something like that, or is just overall jealous. Right. If you take a publication like Penthouse, I can see how maybe that would be, you know, a little uncomfortable. But at the same time, I don't really understand why, because it's a magazine. Right. You know, and men aren't really wired to be getting everything from one female. Like, I'm sorry, like, that's a nice pipe dream, It's not pragmatic at all. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sure all of my female friends who are watching right now are loving this episode. Somehow I don't think this one's going to make it into their top 10 loves of all of the Let's Talk Personal episodes.
Oh, well.
But I agree with you. I think there is a certain truth to that. I think you're definitely I don't think you're telling a mistruth at all. I think we can go into the science of it, but there's data out there that supports this. I mean, time flies when you're talking about sex toys and coffee table magazines. Before we wrap, you're making content. You're out there building content. Who is somebody else that you think is making great content right now?
Oh, man. Probably Todd Francis, who is our cartoonist for Penthouse.
Mm-hmm.
He can be found at just Todd Francis. Todd is really good at finding issues in culture, whether it's, guns, stuff like that. And,
right.
Todd always gets hate mail. Todd gets plenty of hate mail. And he still just draws like a happy little clam and just does what he does. This is Todd's fun page for this month.
Oh, yeah. He's going to get hate mail for that. I mean, sending hate mail to a cartoonist, I think, is an extra special level of crazy. What do you think is a social media trend that's going on right now that you wish would stop?
People that don't read.
Like read in general or read books?
People that find something like on Google and they're just like, that's true because it's on Google. And I'm like, do you know how to, cite a source? Do you know how to see if it's,
right,
partisan or bipartisan?
Right.
People think if they see something online that it's just true, but people don't really know how to check their sources and make sure that they're valid either.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So more people need to read and just really be careful about what they're reading and make sure that they cite it,
Right. Citing your sources is important. It is responsible journalism. Where can people find you? I mean, other than flipping open a Penthouse magazine, where can people find you if they want to connect?
Well, Twitter. No, hold on. I'm sorry. Instagram is just Camille_writes.
Right.
LinkedIn, Camille Todaro, Todaro, and that's about it. But probably the most active place that I am is Instagram. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. So funny. Well, my dear, you have been phenomenal. This has been a great conversation. I love it. Folks, connect with her, check her out, open up the pages of Penthouse or get online and read her upcoming articles. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yay! And tune in next week, folks. We are definitely going to take a 180-degree turn next week as I have one of my favorite political analysts come on the show, Mr. Rashad. He is going to be joining me next week, and we are going to be talking about political activism. So we can't get more 180 away from talking about porn and sex toys. So I hope you join in next week. Stay with me, folks. I'm trying to be diverse here. If you want to join with us and join in on the conversation, of course, you can always do so. You can find Let's Talk Personal on Twitter at LTP Brand Radio or on Instagram at Let's Talk Personal. And of course, I love you guys always. I love your messages. Please shoot them to me on Instagram at Firestarter CEO or on Twitter at Your Firestarter. As always, I'm pretty sure I'm Frances Reimers, and I appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you next week.